Welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed, the premier podcast for innovative growth strategies, hosted by two seasoned experts. Meet Evan Polin, the president of Polin Performance Group, a master in sales coaching with over 2 decades of experience. Evan is not just a consultant, he's a force in sales, focusing on mindset, planning, and skill development. He's also the co-author of Selling Professional Services the Sandler Way. Joining him is Craig Andrews, partner and CEO of Beholder Agency, an expert in growth marketing. With 20 years under his belt, Craig blends marketing creativity with strategy to propel businesses forward, making Beholder Agency a leader in effective marketing solutions. Together, Evan and Craig are here to share their wisdom on winning strategies, best practices, and transformative insights that will fuel your growth. Get ready to revolutionize your sales and marketing approach right here on the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed.
And welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed. I'm Craig Andrews and my partner in crime, Evan Polin. How you doing today, Evan?
I'm doing great today, Craig. How are you doing today?
I'm not doing too bad. And so a lot of times, Evan, when we do our show, what are the primary things we talk about? We talk about how sales blames marketing, and then marketing blames sales. And that's a constant thing that goes on. But the thing that we really want to concentrate on today, and especially with our guests that we have today, is concentrating on kind of those, what I used to call the legs of the table, right? So you're going to help me with this, because I remember I always forget the last leg, but I know we always talk about it, sales and marketing. And then what are the other parts?
So next, we need to look at the financial health of the business.
Yep.
Because if we've got twice as much going out as we do coming in, that's going to be a major problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last piece is the people part of things.
People.
So if the people aren't working well, it's going to lead to a dysfunctional organization, which even if you're making money, nobody's going to be happy.
Yeah.
So we've got to have those three things all kind of working together to make sure that the organization's running effectively.
Beautiful. See, that's why I keep you around. You kind of know this information to keep me in track, right? So ultimately, today's guest, we're going to talk about that financial leg, right? Because without one of those legs, the whole business collapses. And so he has a beautiful way in which he kind of simplifies, which we're going to talk about a little bit. He talks about a simple way that businesses really should be operating. So I'm going to bring him in, and then he can kind of introduce himself. Hey, Steve, how are you today?
Great. How are you both doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Thanks for
joining.
joining.
Looks better than me most of the time, so I just stick with what I got.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on today. I'm excited.
No worries. So, Steve, for our audience today, you had, in our kind of our pre-production conversation, you talked about the Drucker's quote. Can you give us some sort of background on that?
And actually, before you do that, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure.
Good point.
Absolutely can do. So I'm Steve Kapfer, founder and CEO of Tower CFO. Our goal is to simplify finance and to help businesses scale. So we simplify finance so that owners understand their financials and their accounting operations, and then ultimately so that they can find the story in their numbers and know how to appropriately and timely make decisions that help them reach their goals. One way that we simplify finance is by helping owners understand that the purpose of their business ultimately is to establish their marketing and sales and drive product innovation. And those two functions ultimately are what will grow the business.
And so I love that definition, because a lot of times when we're dealing with clients, we all kind of deal with small to medium-sized businesses. We've scaled to larger businesses and so forth. But the common theme in this is simplification, at least in our end. I can't speak for Evan because, he's the guru. But the process of simplifying is so important from a marketing perspective, because we're always inundated with all types of media, whether it be social media, whether it be Instagram, whether it be whatever it might be, emails all day. And we try to get our clients to simplify. Evan, what's your take in terms of the simplification in terms of sales?
I think it's really important, and it's really important for people to know their numbers, because if a company is focusing on pushing out a product or service that doesn't make a whole lot of margin, but it's sexy, it's fun, or they're going after these whale clients, but nobody's sitting back figuring out if the whale clients are any more profitable Then those small to mid-sized clients. Again, you can start to have people who are really, really busy, but not necessarily productive or profitable. And again, maybe that may lead us to a good starting point with Steve. Steve, when you start coming in and start working with the business for the first time, what are some of the things that you look for, and maybe what are some of the things that let you know that a business is doing the right things versus some of the mistakes, challenges that you may sometimes see when you initially start working with the business?
Yeah, so what we find and what we like to do when we first meet with a client is look over their financials. Most of our clients will use QuickBooks, and they may just default to the structure that QuickBooks uses. And what we often find, right, is that the default view for QuickBooks and other ERPs that are out there is not often how clients should structure their financial statements. It hides the story, right? So what we'll go through with them is to understand what are their operating revenues, what are their direct costs, and then ultimately from there you can calculate your gross profit. To Evan's point, by calculating your gross profit, you then know what products and services are actually profitable to deliver. We'll then separate out their overhead costs, right? These are your indirect overhead costs that our goal is that they stay fixed over time, right? They shouldn't be increasing as we increase our marketing and sales. And then finally, we're able to calculate our operating profit. Everything else, right? There are many other things that businesses do. Those are non-operating expenses and revenues. Those, maybe interest expense, interest revenue, etc. Those are all non-operating, and we exclude those from the stories that we're ultimately trying to tell, because we want to know how profitable is the business at delivering the products and services that it's intended to deliver. So that's where we start. The conversation is just, let's reorganize the financial statements so we know what the story is. From there, we can now have a conversation to say, is our overhead cost structure appropriate? Can we hold it down over the long term? Are the products and services that we're even selling profitable? Do we need to talk about pricing strategy? Is that what we need to do? Or is it, are we just not growing our sales and taking a really hard look at why aren't we, growing the sales? Yeah, we may look and say, oh, we have a healthy marketing budget, we're spending, but that's not translating to an increase in sales, right? Why?
So in terms of that, you're saying a lot of buzzwords that hit home from the marketing perspective as well, primarily because we're storytellers, right? So a lot of times when you're in a situation when you're talking to the small businesses and things of that fashion, do you have a way through the financials to find out if the marketing piece is maybe where you need to push more, or the sales piece where you need to push more? Do you have some sort of formula for that?
So there are a number of different metrics that you can use. What I like to do actually is just talk with the sales team, talk with the marketing team. It usually starts with understanding what was the overall strategy behind our marketing efforts, behind our sales efforts, and then from there developing appropriate metrics or key performance indicators that we want to look at. At a very high level, right? We can always just look at what's our revenue per dollar of marketing spend or per sales spend. That's a very easy way of just quickly calculating a metric. But if there are specific strategies, specific tactics that a business is trying to pursue, there may be additional metrics to look at.
So, question for you: what percentage of the time do they have a thought out strategy versus they've kind of fallen into doing whatever they're doing and they couldn't quite tell you how they got to the point they're at?
Yeah, it's almost, I don't want to say always that clients don't have a strategy, but just the vast majority of time, clients have jumped to what we describe as jump to a countermeasure, right? They say, I have a problem, and I think this is what the solution is, without having taken the time to say, what's the root cause of the problem? And then what is the appropriate strategy to put in place to address it? And then put a budget behind it right? And then figure out, how do I track it? How do I execute on it, right? Far too often we just find that clients jump into things, and then when they don't work, they'll jump right back out of it, right? And without having really put the thought into it.
Yeah, I love that question, Evan, because I think in each one of our disciplines, we have clients who jump right in, assuming that the answer is right, primarily because they'll find something on the internet and it'll sound good, or in a lot of times, in my case, they'll jump into a new piece of software that can do it quicker, faster. But a lot of times what ends up happening, and probably in all of our cases, the clients eventually come back and go, I did this, but how does that work? And we all go, well, we all have the same smile I just saw that came up on screen here a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, I have a client, right, where they're working on, generating leads, right? And so they just tried out a number of new things all at once, right? And so now they have no idea, well, what of these strategies that are tactics that we've now implemented, which one actually worked, right? And so they just wound up.
That's important.
Yeah, right. So it's a perfect example. In this case, they didn't know what was working. They burned through their marketing spend.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize nearly as much, revenue as they needed to. Until then, they just dialed everything back, right? Yes. And so now they're right back to where they started, where they don't have enough leads. Their revenue isn't growing. Cash is starting to get tighter, and now they're in a tough spot. Versus, right, if they had planned first, right, and had the metrics in place to know what is working, right, then you can incrementally grow from there.
So one of the takeaways that you're giving to our small to mid-sized business owners, they should actually have a measured approach and track what they're doing to try to figure out what's working, what's not working before just pouring gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. I mean, one approach I like with marketing is doing A/B testing, right?
Absolutely.
You hold everything constant and you change one thing, right? And you just establish, how long do I need to wait for results, right? And then use that as a reporting cadence, right? And as you're starting to see things improving or not improving, right, you can then make decisions.
I think that what's interesting about what you're saying there is that the thing that I tell people all the time is marketing is not turnkey, right? Everybody's case is a little different. So the key here is that people believe that once I do marketing, my sales should immediately grow and I should instantly have a turnaround within a month's time. And then all of a sudden everything's beautiful. And that's just not real. So we're here as the playbook to let everybody know that you have 3 professionals here who are telling you to absolutely develop a strategy. Evan, do you think from a sales perspective, having a sales strategy is important?
Only if you want to be successful. I mean, if you don't want to make money, you don't care about being successful, then no need to put the time and effort into a strategy. But if you're actually getting into business to make money, to serve more clients, then you might want to have some kind of strategy that you can track and measure over time.
Yeah. Steve, let's kind of pivot here a slight little bit. When we talked before, you talked about using innovation or doing some form of innovation as that other thing that you should be doing, and let the professionals or people that's designated take care of that back end work. Can you talk a little bit about that a little bit?
Yeah. So ultimately, right, as a business, we're trying to develop some kind of product or service that we can sell to our customers, right? So in order to do that, we have to differentiate what it is we're trying to sell. Customers ultimately need to demand it. And so innovation is a term that's meant to say that as a business, we need to come up with something that customers ultimately will want, and that we then need to constantly improve on it over time. If we stop improving, right, and in some cases, right, businesses may choose for a particular product line to stop improving it. That becomes what we call often is a cash cow or a dog, right? Where it's a dog would be a product that doesn't have any profit. A cash cow would be a product that has a profit, but that we just determine is now becoming obsolete, right? And so we don't want to invest in it anymore. But ultimately, right, both of those, if the business overall just stops innovating, it will die, right? Because demand will decrease over time, and unprofitable products will just drag the company down, right? So a business always needs to be coming up with new products to sell to stay ahead of its competitors, and to access new markets. So that's why it's such an important aspect of what businesses should be doing.
And Steve, when you go into a business, as you start to look at it, how do you get a sense whether the challenge is sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's how they're pricing things and their pricing strategy, or profitability, or maybe they're trying to sell into a market that's not working, or a product that nobody really wants? How are you able to help them kind of determine some of those things?
Yeah, so this is where we really like to talk with the team, right? We like to talk with key stakeholders at a business and get everyone's perspective and feedback, and then synthesize that. Part of what usually comes out of that is there a consistent strategy? Does everyone understand the direction that the business is trying to go? Has that been communicated well? And then how is the team ultimately executing on that strategy? That's usually where we find there are significant gaps. The owner may have, our owners may have a very clear vision of where they want to go, but it hasn't been communicated. It may be just, that there's no budget in place. With sales, I think a really good example that I've seen is, the sales team or the marketing is actually working really well, and the sales team is, has a script, knows how to sell, but they're in this case, there was a gap in that the sales team just wasn't following up quick enough on the actual leads that were coming in, right? Mm-hmm. There was just far too much of a delay, and so you start to try to, uncover what's causing the delay. Okay, well, the sales team is getting pulled in too many different directions. The sales team, wasn't properly staffed. The types of people on the sales team just didn't have the drive to follow up on the leads. And ultimately that was the chink in the armor that even though leads were coming in, nobody was following up on the leads. And when they did follow up on the leads, right, the sales team wasn't able to close it because they had their script. So it's like it's taking the time to really dig into what's happening at a business and getting the feedback, looking at it from a systems perspective, and then starting to say, okay, where are the gaps?
I love it.
Steve, the one thing that you mentioned that has been a theme across the board whenever we brought in guests, whether it's on the finance side, the people side of things, other marketing professionals, folks working with business owners, if the communication's not there, everything else falls apart. If the owner doesn't have the vision, can't communicate that vision down, then everything else falls apart and the organization ultimately isn't successful.
Yep. Yeah. It's surprising, right? As an owner myself of my business, how often you have to just repeat, like, what is the vision? What is the direction? What's the strategy? Like, you just have to constantly repeat it in many different forums to many different, many different employees, especially as your business is growing. And I think most owners just don't realize that, how important that is.
Right. And they assume that people are much better at reading their minds than they actually are. And if it's all up here and we're not articulating it, then that's a challenge.
Yep. Yeah. And that's where the part of things where the marketing comes into play, is because going back to what I started the show with, which is the clarity and the simplicity is incredibly important. And so, Steve, I'm going to give you a quick little break here, and I want you to think of three things you want to leave our audience with when it comes to finance in a business that you want them to know. And while you're thinking about that, Evan, why don't you give everybody, you have your sales training program that kind of touched upon what Steve was talking about in terms of those little chinks in the armor that can help them get through that.
Sure. So, Craig, I appreciate the opportunity to do a cheap plug, and I will take it every time, you know that. So I have a 12-week sales training program that is going to be kicking off in the fall, the week after Labor Day. So if any of you have, either you're a business owner who's out there selling, or you have a sales team that's just not hitting the numbers that you'd like them to hit, it's a 12-week program, once a week, hour-long sessions, focusing on everything from having the right mindset to succeed in sales, looking at what sales activity, what sales behavior is needed to be successful, and then giving people a really good consultative approach from selling, from building rapport at the beginning, through making sure that a client's not going to back out of the sale at the end and that you get more referrals and introductions. The program includes an accountability app, ongoing reinforcement. So if you as a business owner or you've got a sales team, if you want to make sure that you crush it between now and the end of the year, please just go onto LinkedIn, check it out, drop me a comment in the comment section, and we'll be happy to get you information for that 12-week program.
Awesome. So, Steve, I think that was enough of a break. You're up now. Here's your chance. A, give yourself a plug in terms of what Tower CFO does, in addition to what information you would leave for our audience about what they should be considering when their finance is an important part of the equation.
Sure. Yeah. So Tower CFO, we simplify finance and help businesses scale. We really love to work with founders who have a strong vision, a strong drive to grow their business, and who are really looking for a partner who can help them understand their business and grow in their financial literacy. We look at helping clients not only improve their operating profit and the cash in the bank, but we help owners understand the perspective of an investor in their business, because ultimately most entrepreneurs, their biggest investment that they'll ever make is in their business, right? And so ensuring that they have a strong return on their investment is critical. When we think about some of the three things where we can really help businesses is understanding their profitability, right? They're understanding their operating profit, understanding their cash flow, and then understanding their return on their investment. Now, whether that is return on investment specific to a sales and marketing strategy, or their return on investment, broadly speaking, on their business, we can help them evaluate that.
And Steve, how can people find you?
So they can find us whether they go directly to our website, Tower CFO, and request an opportunity to meet with us, or they can certainly reach out to me directly at steve@towercfo.com.
You heard it here. Evan, who are we?
We are the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed.
And you know what we do here. We give you the answers that you need to drive your business forward. And you know what? We're all sports fans. You're a sports fan, right, Steve?
I am. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and we only had one professional team growing up. So I am a Blazers fan at heart.
Oh, there you go. That's good enough. At least you're not saying you're a Dallas fan. But anyway, go Birds. We're going to try and get it in every episode as possible because at the start of the season. So again, if you guys have anything here that could be helpful for you, please, by all means, subscribe, like, share, comment. If you have any questions for any of us, by all means, put it in the chat and ask us the questions. We're not afraid of you. We're not afraid to answer your questions. Well, we do this every day, all day in our own respective disciplines, and we will come back to you with an answer that we believe is going to work for you and help your business grow. We have a lot of good things coming down the line here, and we want to make sure you guys stay with us and learn and see beautiful guests like Steve here, who's giving you input that's going to help your business. Evan, do you have anything you want to add to it before we take off?
Please make sure to hit our episodes. We just did one on equating summer sports to sales and marketing. Really cool episode coming up on AI as well. So make sure that you stay current and go back and make sure that you're listening to some of the old episodes as well. We are giving you the tools to grow your business and succeed. So make sure all we can do is put them out. Mm-hmm. You've actually got to be the one to take them and implement them.
And if you have any help or if you need help, sales, marketing, finance, give us a call. Let us know. We're willing to help you. As we always say, I'm Craig Andrews. That's Evan Polin. And way over there on the other side, at least from my perspective, is Steve. And we will talk to you guys next time. Keep winning.
Thank you for joining us on this exhilarating journey through the world of sales and marketing. Remember, the playbook is in your hands and the possibilities are limitless. Keep exploring, experimenting, and innovating, and watch as your business reaches unprecedented levels of success. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed on all major podcast platforms, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for even more exclusive content. Until next time, keep hustling and keep winning.